It's Friday, October 28th. Let's talk PlayStation. So, kind of a slow news week for PlayStation this past week. Not really a whole lot going on as we slowly move into the holiday season, but there's still a few things we can discuss, like PS4 Firmware 4.05, which improves the quality of system performance. I really enjoy that new wording they've been using recently for these updates. Definitely hitting it home for me for sure. Really makes me feel comfortable about my PS4. Next news story. This is one thing that I think a lot of people have been asking for as of recent when Microsoft introduced their Elite controller. Sony is going to be officially licensing, so it's not going to be straight from them, but they'll be licensing two Elite PS4 controllers. So one's going to be by Razer, another one's going to be by Nikon. I think that's how you pronounce the company's name. But you can see the imagery right here of what the controllers will look like. So these are Pro controllers. They have that custom mapping you can expect with the buttons for these like Elite or Pro controllers. They have those, sort of joint triggers in the back for you to, do the proper button mapping you want to do for hitting some quick buttons on the back if you want to. Not really my particular thing, but if you are the kind of person that is looking for a very premium controller that allows you to have complete control over the game and how you want to play the game, then this is something you can definitely look forward to. So one type of news story we don't really talk about, but it's been cropping up, recently the past few weeks about what games are going to get supported on PS4 Pro, which we know a number of games are. But I think this one's interesting. Knack, PS4 launch exclusive Knack is getting PS4 Pro support. PS4 architect Mark Cerny, of course, that's actually his game that he directed, and he was discussing kind of the differences between the regular PS4 version and how it's going to be looking on PS4 Pro. So I just thought that was interesting. Knack is actually getting PS4 Pro support. If you weren't sold on PS4 Pro, maybe now it might lean you over the edge, although it's not surprising, obviously. A lot of Sony's first-party games are going to get support, as they often do whenever Sony does any sort of realm of possibilities in the gaming industry. They always use their own titles to support whatever it is they're usually doing. So obviously Knack is a first-party game. I guess it's not, like I said, it's not too surprising. Also, you got Uncharted, obviously, in the mix. That's going to get PS4 Pro support. Infamous First Light, and then a couple of third-party games, which are obviously going to get support. We all know that moving forward, come October something, like the deadline was either like it just passed or it's just coming up, but basically, moving forward, if you're developing a PS4 game, it has to have a Pro version of the game shipped on disc. So, but I thought that was interesting. So we finally have an update on this Uncharted movie. It actually has a new director now, Sean Levy. This is the guy that did, what's the name of that Netflix series? But he directed Real Steel, and then he directed, I believe, all three of the Night of the Museum movies. I'm not a movie guy, keep in mind, but so I guess it's hard for me to kind of discuss this. The problem with the Uncharted movie, and we only talk about it periodically every like 6 months to a year when they finally have updates about it, and it seems like it's got a new cast, or it's got a new script rewrite, or it's got a new director. It's just one of those movies, video game movies, that's in Hollywood hell. Who knows when it will come out? And at this point, it's like I'm having a hard time finding enthusiasm for it. The most enthusiasm I had for a video game movie in recent times was the Ratchet & Clank movie, which was an actual real push at a good Ratchet & Clank movie. And understandably, it actually came out and it actually did quite well. The problem with that movie is that Sony didn't market the damn thing or really kind of push it onto people, or that was kind of Sony's fault. But that was this like sort of last real push for a really good, compelling video game movie. Would I like a good Uncharted movie? Absolutely. I guess it's just like my expectations and hopes and hype for it are literally at the bare, not even, I guess minimum would be the wrong, it's non-existent. So this one I actually thought was pretty cool. Gamestop, and I thought they announced this a while ago, but it's making headlines again, so maybe they weren't doing it before, but basically GameStop is accepting retro trade-ins again. So you can go to a GameStop store, trade in a PlayStation game, a Game Boy Advance game, an N64 game. That in particular, I wouldn't actually ever recommend doing, but the interesting thing is that they're selling them again. So, if you're in kind of an area that, is hard for you to find retro games, you don't have like a pop-up shop or something like that, or a mom and pop shop, or whatever, because obviously GameStop has not been offering retro games for a long time, and now they're actually offering it again. Granted, it doesn't say anything about them offering it in stores, so I don't know if that's something they're going to be doing soon in terms of retail space, but if you do go to their website, they do have like listings for all these games again. Like I said, I thought they did this a while ago, so maybe this news story is entirely irrelevant for all I know, but certainly noteworthy, because actually some of the prices not too bad. Now me, I would probably never buy a game from GameStop in terms of the retro collection, because they can't guarantee the box art or the case quality, and as you all know from my big rack of games over there. I'm very, very particular about used games that I buy. I'm actually a nightmare to go to a game store because I get so pissed off at the fact that there's stickers on every goddamn game. Sometimes they put the stickers on the box art, and I wonder how the hell could you possibly work there and care about video games to put a fucking sticker on the actual box art of the game. I sometimes when I'm like shopping games, I'll take a box art out of one and put it into a better case and take the disc and everything. I'll fucking make it so that I get the best, most quality version of the game going out of that store. But one time I bought a Black Label PlayStation game, and the guy was putting a greatest hits disc, and I was like, what the hell are you doing, dude? I was like, so not for me, but maybe other people might find it a good idea because of the actually decent prices. And for the hell of it, because there's not really a whole lot else going on this past week, let's talk about the fact that the Order 1886 creative director was discussing about how the Order actually could very possibly have a sequel at some point. He's more or less saying that the IP was built for that. If you actually played the game, that the story was kind of grounded around that idea that they had a much grander vision for what this series was going to be, and they definitely set it up for a sequel. And of course, when the game came out, it did terrible. Not only from a critical point of view, but I'm sure they didn't see nearly as many sales as they'd like to. I was one of those games where I was one of those people. I was a kind of a proponent of the game. I actually did thoroughly enjoy it. It without a doubt had its problems, but I saw its potential, and I would like for a second game for sure. So, the big problem with when games like that come out is like, you're releasing at $60, and you're gonna piss a lot of people off when you're already a game with glaring issues. But like if the Order was say $5, I mean, I think you can't really go wrong with paying $5 for it. Point being, it had potential. I would certainly love to see another one, especially since Ready at Dawn has kept reiterating the fact that they understand what they did wrong, and they see the issues they have with the game, and they would certainly like another opportunity to do it. And keep in mind, this is Sony's IP. Technically, Sony published the Order 1886, so it's Sony's IP. They can do what they want with it. Obviously, I would like Ready at Dawn to try to rectify their mistakes from the first game and give it a real shot, especially since it is their world anyway, so I wouldn't want another developer to do it because this is their story and they want to tell what, they have an idea for what the sequel is going to be. So if we were to see one, I would love for Ready at Dawn to actually give it a shot and do it justice. And for our final news story, Sony's Worldwide Studios Shuhei Yoshida has confirmed that The Last Guardian has gone gold. Going gold, of course, means the game is finished and they're going to start printing the discs, getting it ready for its release December 6th. Never did I think we would be at this moment of Let's Talk PlayStation where we would be discussing that The Last Guardian is finally coming out. We don't have to talk about The Last Guardian, and I guess that's understandable considering it doesn't news about it doesn't happen quite as frequently as it has been in the last 12 months because the game has resurfaced and it's ready to go finally. The only thing I really have to say about The Last Guardian is that it's in such a tough spot because I think it's going to be like almost nearly impossible for this game to come out and meet expectations, and that's the problem. I think people have absolutely absurd expectations for this game, and that's it's Sony's fault for one, and it's going to be people's fault. It's going to be the gamers' fault too, because these people are going to have this expectation of this 10-year sort of tailspin that they've been having with this game and waiting for this game. Some people bought a PlayStation 3 just to play this game, and now here it is on PS4. It's just like, and obviously it's riding the success of Ico and Shadow of the Colossus. Like, there's just no fucking way that Last Guardian's going to come out and it's like, I have just this bad feeling that this game's going to come out and it's actually going to do quite, I don't want to say poor, but like, I sort of had this gut feeling that that's what it's going to be. And part of the problem is that A, it either probably just won't be like super, super phenomenal, and B, people aren't going to be able to separate their opinion from that sort of expectation and hype and this 10-year long wait that they've been doing. That's like one of the biggest problems with the games industry and people in general when they play games, and sort of how people get so emotionally invested in games and the conversation about games is that hype and expectations and excitement, it always overthrows like opinion, like a lot of the time, and it always kind of, well, more so it overthrows the objectiveness of looking at games and evaluating them and stuff. It's like one of the biggest problems. That's the biggest problem. It always is, like going into E3 or going into any sort of a big game launch. I mean, and The Last Guardian's like got to be one of the best examples where it's going to be a serious victim to this. So, I really hope it comes out and it's like awesome and it's fantastic, and it probably will be. I mean, obviously the game's been in development for such a long time, so it definitely had a few issues at some point, some significant issues. Probably for it to take as long as it did, because that's an absurd amount of time to develop a game and a completely move platform, and of course the game's director and the creator kind of like leaving and coming back and changing positions and roles. Like, clearly there was some big problems with that game, but the fact that it's coming out means that they were sorted in some way, so hopefully the final product is good. But it's just going to be like a real uphill battle for that game, and there's like, I think it's going to be like clearly no way that Sony's going to be able to make all their money back on it. But who am I to say? I'm not Sony, and I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but I would imagine it's going to be very hard for The Last Guardian. It's just going to, like, I almost feel kind of bad for it at this point. But people are still, like, super optimistic about it, and that's great, but I think that's the problem. People are going into it with way too much hope for this pedestal the game is on, and it wasn't even really supposed to be on this pedestal because it was supposed to come out like fucking 5 years ago. Anyway, those are some of the news stories I want to talk about with you guys this week. If you didn't see it, PlayStation VR buying tips. You're going to be buying a PlayStation VR. Check out this video. I'm going to be giving you 5 very important tips on what you should do when you go to buy a PlayStation VR unit yourself. So we'll give that a watch. A lot of people have been asking me why I'm not discussing the video game voice actor strike. I think I'm going to do just a separate video for that, like a Ryan on Gaming video, which may or may not be Wednesday. I'm not entirely sure. I'm going to be very busy this week. Even more so because Skyrim comes out today, the Skyrim remaster, and I really want to actually sit down and play that because I've never actually played the game for like an absolute significant amount of time. I always played at like people's houses or something for like a short amount of time. I've never actually owned it myself and like really gotten into it. So I'm actually super pumped to finally pop the Skyrim cherry. So part of that is also why there may or may not be a video Wednesday. But we'll do the voice actor strike in a separate video because I feel like that should definitely be a separate video. And keep submitting Ryan on Gaming topics as Ryan on Gaming comes back to a triumphant return, hopefully soon. Anyway, that concludes this week's episode of Let's Talk PlayStation. I'm Ryan, but I thank y'all so much for talking with me. I'll see you guys next Friday.